live.
Hi.
Yep. So I'm here with Glenn, and we are going to go over some of his stuff about like mentality, nerve, stamina, and then something that I put on here that I think kind of ties into the other two very well. You can see the
Mm-hmm.
screen also, by the way, right, Glenn?
Yeah, it's
Perfect.
perfect.
So let me hit this. Boom. To have that up. Is how to use those resources efficiently. So you were mentioning that like you feel like you're only playing at like a fraction of how effective you actually can be.
When I play when I'm playing friendlies, I play like a lot better. I shouldn't like I yeah I just a lot more focused, a lot more like trying to look for answers to situations. And in tournaments, I just kind of blank and wing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Uh,
it's because there's stuff on the line. There's like a few different factors that go into
yes.
tournament that make it different from friendlies.
And I wish I kind of
Oops.
not to this. I like my B game is like all right because I always
There we
play at
go.
my B game in tournament. But I want it to like I want to play better on average when I'm in bracket, especially when versus people that I really want to. You know what I mean? Uh,
Yeah.
I want to prove myself.
So like if this is your floor, if this is the worst you'll play, that's a bad color for this actually.
About a 30. I play like about a 30.
Well, let's say if this is your floor, this is the worst you usually ever play, and this is the best you usually ever play.
Hmm.
The goal is going to be to move it up here. Like you're never going to get 1-to-1. You're always going to have good and bad days, but
Of course.
move it up a little bit. Um, okay.
I know that I think this is something that's kind of frequent. I suck versus like players that are like bad. You know what I mean?
Okay, I know exactly what you mean. It's
The
not
O2ers are the worst, dude.
okay. So to phrase it a little more generously, I think kind of you're probably you're probably anticipating what your opponents are going to do. And when they
Yes.
don't do what you expect, in this case, because they might just not do Fox up through up air, and they might only do up their back air, and you're always DIing and SDIing for up air and you die early, it's like, you don't, like, you have to figure out if it's a mix up or if they're just kind of pressing buttons. And
It's
then,
like I want to be. This is going to like the stamina that we're going to talk about later.
mhm.
But I wish I could organize. You know, like versus like these like people that I think I should beat, or like that. There's like people that I should beat, but that I need to like put time like and like energy into. I wish I could find a way to like autopilot some of my wins in the lower bracket, so I have energy for like the big ones. I don't know if there's there's
a
like
billion
a quick
percent.
way.
That's a way
Okay.
you can do it. Let me actually add that here. Actually, that I don't placeholder.
Because I like force dog autopilot these people when I'm in friendlies. You know what I mean?
Yep. So there's a few different ways to do that. The I guess the biggest start of an autopilot is punish game is autopilot. Like it's literally, oh hey, for example from YouTube, right? Oh hey, I landed forward air at 0. That's 60% for free, depending on what they
Yeah, you get
do.
another one.
Yeah, you get more than one. But like I don't have to make a decision. I can start leisurely thinking about like in 3 seconds if they're going to be over here, what mix up am I going to push?
Hmm.
Rather than you do a few hits and then at the right before the last you go, oh wait, what do I do? What should I do here? Even if it's an advantage position for you, postponing that decision because you're focusing on this not 100% execution test, but like you're focusing on something that you can get down pat. It's kind of mostly on you. That
Hmm.
adds urgency.
Yeah.
So beginning, or how do I phrase this? The beginning of combos and certain, let's say setups like throws, like throw
Hmm.
combos.
I've started to do that a lot. Like in tournament now, I'm trying to push the CSS. I used to be a Game & Watch player, like a solo, for the longest time. But I'm starting to push ZSS because I want to go to P+ tournaments. Uh, and I've kind of starting like doing a lot of stuff. I don't know how to words this, but like advantage state, I've started to like really optimize it with ZSS. And it's like really helped in like being able to take the stocks and in a not having to think way. I rather just to think in the neutral. That's like the most important part.
Yeah. Another zero suit example is if they're at 120 and you're on a platform stage, you can kind of just like plat drop air, and sometimes they'll run into it based on like pure numbers eventually because it's so hard to punish, and it's a good move and it covers good space that sometimes you can just toss it out. Let me see. Does this do it the way I want? Yes. Shift tab is amazing. Certain neutral or advantage options.
Oh, is there the chat open?
My bad.
Oh no, I'll just open your stream. I didn't know there were people in chat. Hi, internet.
I'm not seeing anybody in chat right now. So.
Oh, okay. I thought that's what you were saying.
Oh no! I'm sorry, I misspoke. So yeah, certain neutral or advantage options like zero suit drop, zero suit bear at high percent. Things like that can be okay. Well, I can toss this out while I think about what I want to do, what they want to do. All these different factors. So your hand can do, let's say, shield drop back air at slightly different timings, while your brain thinks about, okay, they're playing Ivysaur. How does Ivysaur get out of the corner here? They don't jump at me. They jump at me in air, pivot back air, down tilt, dash attack. What is this player doing? You can kind of buy your brain some time, basically. Let me actually.
Yeah.
I'll put this in both. Because a lot of the times, and kind of getting back into nerves for a second here, nerves are when there are stakes, basically. So like friendlies, it's friendlies. It's a fun game. And that's kind of all it has to be. If you want to practice something, sure, but it's still friendlies. If you miss that silly Falcon Punch, or like you try to maybe you try to do some 6-0 suit combo that doesn't quite work out, it's like, it's fine. Like, I learned that this it doesn't work out, or it just didn't work out this time, or whatever. But when there are stakes of,
let's say like I try to find solutions to stuff, and I like actively ask my opponent when it's like someone I know. Usually I play with like when I'm trying to grind, I have like practice partners, and I saw Feeder, right? Malachi heavily inspired my recent ZSS play.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, that guy is insane. And I started taking a lot of the stuff he did on edge guarding, and I was like, I'm actively going to do this. Please punish it. To like see what you can find. That's stuff I do. I rarely go for like what you're saying, like the rear Falcon combos. I like try to find stuff and see if people can fight against that.
Gotcha. I think that the concept still holds in the sense of like, in friendlies, you can just go, I'm going to be playing for 90 minutes. I'm going to focus on how do I use zero suit down air for pressure. Whereas in tournament, I think this is something that's really big. Like if you lose in tournament, you can't play the game anymore, and that's not fun.
Yeah, I want to play the game, man.
And that's like there are other things like there's depending on the specifics of the event, there's like money possibly involved, let alone a cost of entry. Whether that's gas, entry, venue. Net play tournaments are a slight exception to this, but it's still like your time and your dedicated attention.
And ego.
Oh yeah, and ego. Let me actually, I will write that one down. So, money, time, travel, ego. So,
that's my that's a really big issue I have, and I need to get it out of my system. But it's there.
I think that the tricky part is that you don't, in my experience, you don't want to just remove ego. Like it's not purely a bad thing, but it very quickly becomes too much of a good thing. Because there is...
Can you elaborate?
So if you don't, like if you have like literally zero, like completely extreme, you do not care about your own performance or skill in this game, then it's really hard to muster the motivation to care about it. Because Right,
Okay, yeah, I see what you mean.
right,
But I was like in the sense like trying to always learn from your losses instead of like, dude, I suck. Like,
right.
I want to be I want to be able to take the positives out of the ego, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Excuse me. I think one way to do that also is to kind of. This is going to be a little strange sounding, but like, imagine you're playing the game and something goes wrong or something goes right. Just kind of zoom out a little bit.
Hmm.
Like, okay, cool, I did this good thing. Or, okay, cool, I made a mistake and did a bad thing, or they did a really good thing and bodied me. Kind of zoom out and don't, like, ignore the whole, like, the emotional response, because we can't control how we feel about something initially. Like, if I get bodied, if I get four stuck and clip four times and I get JV5'd, I can't control if that makes me happy or sad or whatever, but I can control what I do from there. So,
Yeah.
for example, it's a very old LTC. Mr. LZ absolutely four-stocked me. He like completely destroyed me, and
I do not remember this set.
oh, it was 3 minutes
ago.
long. It was like 6 years ago and 3 minutes
Wait,
long.
was it like the 3 9s?
Maybe that might have been it.
I think I remember.
But so for the first like stock and a half or two stocks, that was game one too. It was a bad time. It was very fun. But the first like stock and a half or two stocks, I'm thinking like crap. I get the chance to play a very good player. I'm wasting this chance. I'm not representing my friends who play game one. I'm not representing my friends, and I'm like in my own head about it. And then by the second 9, it's like, okay, this is just funny now. Like the fear and sadness and anxiety is still there, but I've had the time, and also like the situation is becoming objectively comical. I've had the time and space to like go, okay, that's how I feel about it. And then what I'm going to choose is to try to shift it a little bit to like, okay, I'm really getting bodied. And at this point, it's a little funny. Like, it's okay to admit it's a little funny. And that's my scene made a shitpost of, I don't know if they have this overseas, the Sarah McLachlan in the Arms of an Angel commercial for like a pet shelter.
I think you know what you mean. Like, is it like in the arms of the angel?
Yeah, it's like black and white,
I've heard it.
Quarter speed.
It's not a foreign, but I've seen memes.
Yeah, so one of them, I think it was the entirety of game one. Someone in the scene just did that whenever a combo started on me, which was pretty much the entirety of game one. And it was the funniest thing I've ever seen on that Smash Facebook page. So I think being able to zoom out, or I guess another way to phrase it would be able to be a little more lighthearted about it. Because like, for example, friendlies, the nerves aren't there because you're not losing much. You're playing a fun game with your friends, and maybe you have a little like distress in the sense of, oh, I want to be doing better because it's more fun if you're better. And I'm not quite, something isn't clicking, and there's some distress there, but like, it's very different than like, hey, I traveled to LTC and I'm getting four-stocked on stream. I paid money. I traveled. I took time out of my weekend to get here. I requested time off from work or whatever. And that it makes it harder to kind of like get the ego out of the way, get the like, to move on from that base, this is unpleasant. But if you can, this is a very personal thing, so what worked for me might not work for you necessarily, but what works for me is to kind of spin it. So, like, for example, I'm getting four-stocked. For Mr. L's, at this point, that's funny. Like, this is objectively funny, because these are, like, 2 9s in a row. Everyone knows how this game's going to end.
Me not remember, like, people are just going to remember, though, the 2 9s. They're not going to remember who got hit by them,
My scene's a little... That's a good memory, but but like, it's no one's gonna be like, you shouldn't have gotten hit by up air at 15 twice. It's like, yeah, it happens. And like that's an extreme example naturally, but like, if you can start also playing a floaty helps because like, even in one stock, like I'll get clipped in net play, And well, even though it's net play where the stakes are lower, it's still a lot easier to like find a reason that they're cool, right? Give them credit. So like if you clip Mewtwo, you earned it. Like either that or I mashed double jump out of hit stun for no reason. Like you either have caught me on a bad habit, which is rad, or you've done some super sick combo, which is also rad because it's hard to combo Mewtwo.
It is very hard. Fair is frame 6.
Nair is frame 5. Air dodge is frame 2.
Wait, what was frame 2?
Air dodge.
Oh yeah. He disappears too.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. He'll show up in 30 frames or whatever, just somewhere around here. But that makes, for example, right? Shout out to Mewtwo. Like even that, like Mewtwo air dodge, that makes it cooler when somebody punishes it.
Yeah.
Like I can spin that to be like, oh, my air dodge is invisible, and they were able to notice that super minuscule how the camera shifted or expanded or contracted to figure out what basic direction I went. Like that's rad. So I guess give your opponent credit, especially if you're playing a character that you believe is very good. So like I think Mewtwo is best in the game and has been since inclusion. So when someone bodies me, they body me. Like they don't. To me, I never go like, oh, Mewtwo is just super bad at this, and
I do that a lot, and that's why I pick good characters. I never wanna think that my character's bad.
That's awesome then, yeah. Because if your character's good and you're losing, there's basically two things at play. You got stuff to learn from, and then your opponent is really good at the game, and that's cool. Mm-hmm. It's fun to play people who are good at the game. Mm-hmm. Let me actually write down before I forget.
Like my favorite characters are Game & Watch and 2.6 and G+. I like Fox and DSS, so yeah. Shouldn't be good. Shouldn't be getting killed.
Or let me rephrase this a little bit. So what I was saying a minute ago, where you can't control your first emotional response to something, but you can control what you do about feeling that way. If that kind of makes sense. So like, for example, if you get your down B and jump clip to 0 and you die at like 30, it's like, okay, that sucks. Admit, like that's just kind of, you're gonna have some kind of negative emotional response very likely in tournament to that. But
yeah,
there's a lot of different techniques you can use to kind of move forward from that. If you think of it like visualization can help a lot here. So, for example, some of this will sound insane to you, possibly, and some of this might be like, oh, exactly, that makes sense, because it's very personal, but something that helps me is, if I'm getting bodied, I literally think of it like a timeline, or I guess, wait, no, this side's right, yeah. So, maybe I'm getting bodied, I'm getting forced, hell, I was getting force stock last night at the weekly, and it's like,
I didn't know you were going to weeklies. That's awesome.
Yeah, we have weeklies again, which is very nice. This is, I think, the 4th or 5th one. First one at the new location. Oh, so awesome. Fearless was beating my ass at the weekly, as is custom. Fearless. Shahid is really, really good.
I've seen him. He does some stuff.
So Fearless was beating me up at the weekly, and it's like, he got like, there's one point where he got like the first 2 or 3 stocks. He's like at high percent, but it's still the first 2 or 3 stocks. And I was like, oh no. Mm-hmm. And what helped me kind of like move on from that was physically imagining a timeline. Like actually, wait, I have a pen. What am I doing? You can see my pen.
Can I see your pen?
Yeah.
I can't see your pen.
Well, I haven't written anything yet. So let me, boop. Oh, why is that so?
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, that's fine.
Right. So imagine this is a timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Time. Zoop. And this section, or rather, I'm getting bodied. So what helps me is I imagine that this is beginning a match, end of match. And I can recontextualize what's happening to me, right? I can say, okay, Shahid just it did 300% to me in a minute and a half, and I did 80 to him, but that's only here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can physically visualize whether it's like video editing software or a timeline just like this, like MS Paint timeline in my head, I go, okay, this is the part where I get bodied. And then, oops, use a...
And then it's like your turn, or...
And then we don't know what happens here. We don't know how long this section is, even, right? This could be another 20 seconds as I get destroyed some more and I get four-stocked, or it could be another 3 minutes as we get this really cool set, this really cool game.
I see.
And it helps me kind of like zoom out a little bit and go, okay, so what's happened has happened, but now but now anything could happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then part of that is because like I said, I think Me Too is super good. So even if I'm not feeling 100%, I can just go like, oh, Mewtwo is busted. Okay, this is bad.
He really to be busted.
Or, opponent is human. Oh, so many letters. Opponent, human. So, like, when he's playing well, Fearless will beat me consistently. But I believe so, at least. I know that sometimes his results don't match up with that out of region, but, like,
he does have, like, really good results with that, right?
Yeah, I still think they don't match up to how good he is. This dude is insane. And, like, in region, he is absurd. So, like, for example, I can find solace in the fact that humans make mistakes, especially in Smash, right? So, like, they're going to miss an L cancel eventually, or they're going to, like, choose a not great option eventually, or they're going to, like, I can force a situation where they can make a bad decision off of, like, A, B, C, D, E. So, like, back throw at ledge, hell, even up throw at center stage on some characters at 0. Like, not for combos, but, like, sharking. So, like, there are things I can do to force the high reward situations. And that helps me kind of, like, literally move on from getting bodied. This is something that helps me because I can make it a physical thing. Like, time is not something I can hold, but time is something I experience, and it consistently will move whether I'm getting bodied or whether I'm winning. So if I'm getting bodied, time moves on. I might not be getting bodied anymore. It's like a refresh.
Yeah.
That's something that works for me.
Like you kind of like reset your kind of mentality at that point. Like, yeah, you got bodied, but I think it happened seeing this.
That is a fantastic way to phrase it. This allows...
Probably not.
No. Because this is a lot of, like, ways to trick my brain into resetting.
Okay. Yeah, it's like a placebo.
Yeah, in a way it is like a placebo. But it's also like it's a brain. So if I'm visualizing this made up timeline and all these reasons to trick my brain into moving on, it's still moving on. So I think it's still valid. I guess if it works, it doesn't matter if it's valid or not. That's the point of placebo. But, like, resetting works for me. What might work for you better is, let me go ahead and, instead of resetting, right, you have your timeline of, like, oh, I've been kind of getting bodied. Is use, like, not resetting, but maybe using that to push you forward. Say, oh, I've been getting bodied, but I'm still... Now let's win this game. This comeback will be cool because I was getting bodied.
Exactly. Yeah.
So maybe that's something that works for you, where you can turn losing into a motivator to, like, hit those serotonin and the dopamine emotions, right? Of like, hey, I'm going to get a cool 4-stock comeback. That only happens if I'm about to get 4-stocked. So, like, you can kind of like.
I see what you mean.
Set up, I don't want to say traps, but like set up situations where even when you're losing, you have go-tos that let you push forward. So reset, or I guess rebound. Rebound. And this is going to take some experimentation most likely, because this is even by like competition standards, this is pretty like keyed to the individual. Like, I can help you try to find stuff that works for you, but I can only suggest. And like, you can only experiment until you find something that works for you. And even then it might not work 100% of the time. Maybe you can rebound, but if you're really getting bodied, it's too much to rebound from and you need to reset. And that's something you're going to have to experiment with and kind of figure out by, no way around it, by being in that situation more. You don't know how to move on from getting bodied if you never get bodied.
Yeah.
So to kind of bring this back to this visualization, oops, there we go. Visualization helps move on from negatives. Can be a motivator for positives. Say rebound and then reset. Those are the primary two. The vast majority of like visualization and like how to get out of that headspace when bad things happen that I've talked to people about, it's either some kind of reset or some kind of rebound.
Mm-hmm.
So I would suggest starting there, and unironically, like just steal it, like steal your methods. So if you want to try that timeline thing of like, oh well, time is moving on, so it doesn't matter if I was getting bodied. Now I can just do my good character stuff. Or your rebound of, oh, I was getting bodied, which means this 4-stock comeback will be a 4-stock comeback and not just a 4-stock, which is more hype objectively. So therefore, you can like swing it. But yeah, if if you're watching a lesson and someone has, you hear something that sounds cool, or if you're hearing someone on Summit Couch be like, you hear like PPMD be like, yeah, so something that I like to do is, and this fancy thing you never would have thought of on your own, just steal it. Like, it's not copyright.
Yeah. You don't own your strategies, according to Daigo.
Yeah. Like, hell, if in flipping anime, if you're watching like some sports anime, and there's some dude who's just like, hey, yeah, I was depressed for 3 seconds there. That was rough. And then there's some inner monologue that resonates with you a little bit, just steal it. Like, hell, I'm guilty. I watched Haikyuu, good ass show, by the way. Like, there's like 8 characters in there that I unironically will steal from occasionally. So like, Tanaka, right? I don't know how much of it you've seen, but like Tanaka is this.
I don't remember how much I watched. What team was he in?
He's Karasuno. He was the loud buzzcut guy.
Let me go Google images.
It's all good. The basic point I'm making is that like, oh, this character at some point has an inner struggle that I relate to, and then even if I can't 100% relate to the way they get out of that inner struggle, I can steal little bits and pieces of it and make my own little patchwork solution.
Mm-hmm.
So like, let's say there's a character, just for sake of argument, let's say that Tanaka, is in a slump. This character in something is in a slump and is going, oh, I'm letting my friends down. I can relate to that for sure. But I can't, maybe I can't 100% relate to the way that the character gets over it, but I can go, wait a minute. There might, this character realized that his friends aren't conditional on him being good or not making mistakes, and moves on. It's like, oh, I can steal that for sure, right? And then I can plug that into, maybe that'll help me reset. That'll be a tool. The same way that Mewtwo me thinking Mewtwo is top 1 is a tool of, oh, hey, that helps me reset because I'm playing the best character in the game, so I can body people more easily even if I'm playing bad.
Mm-hmm.
Be like, oh, I can reset because my friends are my friends. It's not conditional on me being X good at the game or hitting Y results or making top whatever or only dropping Z number of games because they're my friends. And I want to give them like, that's like an unfortunate, unintentional assumption if I'm thinking that like, oh, my friends will be upset. It's like, they'll be sad if I lose maybe, but like they're my friends either way. It's like, oh, cool. I can now pivot that to something that works for me. I can steal it.
I see.
The same way that you, to maybe use some phrasing, the same way that you steal Malachi stuff. It's like, oh, that was cool. I want to do that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I want to steal that edge guard. Like, you can do that with like subjective things too, which is very nice because like a lot of figuring this stuff out is trying new stuff. And like you're not going to know how to get around nerves until you obviously have experienced nerves and then have experimented with enough stuff to like find your solution.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah, I get that.
for like let's say the Zero Suit Ditto, right? Or the Zero Suit Donkey Kong matchup. Like there are things that objectively like, oh, maybe up throw is good, or up air is a good move against Donkey Kong that you can kind of like start from. But for mental stuff, you kind of just got to start with negatives. You got to start with, oh, I'm feeling bad, which is not something you can really like grind. You can't grind nerves as easily as you can like, Fox up throw single hit up air.
Yeah.
So I guess to borrow a phrase from public education, your homework with regarding nerves is just try changing your mentality, whether that's zooming out to be like, oh no, my friend, for example, my friends are still my friends. Like, it's cool that they bodied me because it's hard to do in my very good character. Or maybe zooming in where you kind of like rebound and go, okay, so what I need to do to get this stock is while you're on the platform.
Okay.
I kind of want to move back to stamina because we talked about stamina a little bit and then move to nerves.
Yeah.
Stamina is a very fun topic. I think stamina is a very interesting aspect of competition.
Like nobody talks about like stamina throughout like a whole weekend, without like knowing like where to put your energy into, because they're just people you can just kind of
So
people you can just kind of do.
My theory is that neurodivergent people are actually way better at this than non-neurodivergent people, because
I didn't understand.
So like neurodivergent as in like, oh, somebody who has ADD or like other like what's the phrase? It's not the socially accepted baseline.
No. I just didn't understand what you said.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. So like, for example, I don't do crowds very well. So I've learned how to like there's a phrase, spoons. So let me pop down here. So let's say I wake up and I have 3 spoons today. These are the worst spoons, but they're spoons. They're not the same size. Let's say these represent like mental health, energy expenditures. Let's say going to the store takes 2 spoons. Calling the apartment office to get something takes 1 spoon. Calling customer service to handle some package issue takes 2 spoons. Oh, I'm out of spoons. But that package thing needs to get done today. Oh, crap.
All right.
The idea is that you learn how to ration spoons. And in this case, ration energy. So if I wake up and today I have, 5 spoons, which is more than normal, I go, okay, today is the day where I want to use all my spoons because I don't normally have this many. I can go, okay, apartment, I get this, I can do this too, I can do this, because I know that some days I'll wake up and I'll only have 1 spoon. And then I need to get to the end of the day somehow, but I don't have that capability.
Okay.
Same basic concept of stamina, right? There are some times, here, actually, let me stay down here. There are some tournaments that like, here, actually, let's do this, right? Let's say you have 8 spoons. These are all different sizes, but that's not on purpose, I'm just bad. Let's say any given tournament, you have 8 spoons to start. Let's say you don't.
Those are very liberal spoons.
Hey, Glenn. These are spoons. Don't start mocking my spoons.
I love them.
So yeah, it wouldn't be a Vi stream. It wouldn't be a Vi lesson without really bad MS Paint.
Same here.
So let's say, oh, you didn't sleep super well. Like you slept pretty bad, or like on a couch, and like you woke up like with 5.5 hours of sleep, which is like you can still go. Like it's not like the end of the world, but it takes a little more energy to like start the day and like get through to get into that tournament space. Let's say that's 1 spoon. Let's say, you had to maybe do some carpool stuff. You're helping TO pools or like, part of the bracket.
Oh yeah, I'm like the TO in my community. So I have that too,
Right.
but I don't want to use that as a charge.
It's not an excuse per se, but it is like objectively an energy expenditure.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you're helping with stream or like figuring out stream stuff or the venue stuff. Cool. You have 4 spoons left for the tournament to actually play.
Yeah.
Let's say you start getting destroyed in round 1. It's like, oh, and then you get in your own head a little bit much. Okay, that's 1 more spoon to get out of that, and eventually you just run out of spoons. And then all of a sudden, let's say you get in your own head again, and now you're out of spoons. You don't have the energy left to drag yourself back to your normal or to like power through. This is, let me clear this real quick. This is what I mean by stamina. So let's say, right, like, okay, let's take that same example. LZ bodying me, like destroying me at LTC. That takes a spoon or 2 to kind of get through, to be able to twist that. It's not automatic.
Definitely.
And even though I didn't get 4-stock the next game, I definitely didn't even get close to taking a game. Yeah.
So to you, like a spoon also like isn't just like stamina; it's also like assimilating things that happened, right?
A spoon can be basically anything. It's an expenditure of some kind of a resource. So here, let me write this. I'll expound on this later. But neurodivergent people use that term a lot for like, oh, my ADD is worse today. I can't focus on this, or like, oh, my executive dysfunction is worse today. I know I have to do this, but it's taking a lot more energy than it, air quotes, should. So I know I have to expend more energy to do this basic thing. So
All right.
The idea is to ration out as much as possible these spoons, these energy expenditures, and the stamina. So to kind of, I guess, to get back to stamina, if you're at 30% stamina by the time the bracket starts, right, you have tools you can use to minimize how much stamina things need, and then also part of wanting to improve your stamina is doing everything you can within reason to make sure you get a good night's rest, that you show up to the venue with as much stamina as possible.
Yeah, nutrition is important.
Right, make sure you're feeling good based on like what you ate, making sure you're drinking water. If you need to checking in, making sure you use the restroom if you need to between sets. Like that's something that
I do that like not even if I want to. I just like religiously do it, just like to not have that thought that I should have wanted. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel you.
Just to be sure.
But basically, these are all things you can do before and between matches. But then during a match, this is something that I think is very fun. Is like autopilot is usually used like unironically. Unironically, people kind of say like autopilot derogatory. There's an implied derogatory when someone says autopilot, but it doesn't have to be. Like again, like let's say, Marth chain grab on Fox on FD. That's autopilot. Like
you should.
Yeah,
like, you should autopilot that. If you're thinking too much on that, you're wasting a spoon.
Right. So maybe there you don't like keep a little bit of an eye out for like the opponent trying to mix up the eye and stuff like that. But like chain grab is a chain grab. So that's a good point to autopilot. Let me actually keep this in here. So punish game is autopilot. Certain advantage or neutral options like stuff you can throw out safely can be autopilot. Like it's a free action. You don't have to like think a ton about. I'm kind of picking on Zero Suit Bear here, but like a lot of characters have stuff like this. Like Fox can do just running short hop nair. Falcon can just do kind of like running short hop nair. Slower characters can charge shot or shadow ball and just kind of sit there and be like, okay, I'm going to show this option, cancel it, and then just get you to do something.
Yeah.
And even though that
force your hand.
Right, like force your hand options like Fox Laser or like I'm going to charge my move for like 20 frames just to remind you I can do it so you have to do something. Something else is ledge options. A lot of ledge options like you shouldn't.
I like to do that with chat might hate me now, but going to top platform.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like something that you can just kind of do and then they have to fix.
Exactly.
Um,
That's why I hate playing without a lead because I can't justify it.
mhm.
You know, like they're like, okay, you're on the top one, but I'm still winning. You know.
Yeah, because you can't force them to do stuff because of the game state.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, let's write that down one and then get to it in a minute for top
Right.
plat. Top plat. So, for example, like anything that says that you shouldn't have to think about consciously, oh, how do I ledge dash? It's like, well, ideally you have grinded the execution enough to like you understand, like it's just in your hands, right? So, like, I guess,
Just a little bit.
let me actually shoot. Okay, well, let me just do this. I like to kind of separate. I don't remember if this came up in the talk with Kumatora. I like to separate actions into basically two kinds of things. There's like stuff that your hands do, so like ledge dashing, the chain grabs, certain punish game options, especially at low percent. The kind of like safe options like going to top plat or like just kind of using bear at kill percent. And then there's stuff that you have to think about, like that your brain does. Like, oh, I think they're going to full hop onto this plat, so I'll bear up here instead.
Okay.
And the best way to conserve stamina is to realize just how much you can just make your hands do without having to think about it too much.
Yeah.
So, like,
I definitely get that.
Smash is a little interesting because it's so variable. A lot of traditional fighters have stuff like Punish Game is entirely autopilot in traditional fighters outside of like a few decisions in the sense of, oh, maybe do I go for the hard combo or the easy one? Do I go for the corner carry, the knockdown pressure, or the damage? What's their
or
meter?
like something that's burst safe in gear. Like,
right. Do I go for the burst safe damage and force them to be at 20% with like an awkward burst timing? Or do I just get hit? Do I not care to get hit by the burst and just call them out on like to be like, oh, if they burst, they burst. Because,
as a melee main, that doesn't really happen. I just knock it down.
Right. So that's even more so, like, because Milia taking the damage, whatever that entails, depending on a specific gear version, like, is so minuscule.
Strive. I was talking about Strive.
Strive? So yeah, trying to take the damage in Strive is, like, getting you're not going to OTG 2K, like, after you throw them. You're gonna do top, or gonna do some kind of pressure.
Yeah.
Because the trade-off is so minuscule, with the exception of like round end, that you've already thought about it before the match started, and like your set play. I guess set play is another term for this. I don't like to use the term for smash a ton because smash is too variable for a lot of this to make sense. But like very small set play situations, like ledge dashing. So like for example, Mewtwo ledge dash roll. That's a set play technically.
I just call it advantage state.
I think
because it's
go ahead.
very specific. Like set play would be like a subset of advantage state, but I would consider like people on the ledge kind of like set play. I would consider like what you said, right? Like because you're forcing them in a disadvantaged state, like in a disadvantageous position to do X, Y.
Yeah, I guess stuff like Wave Shining Peach would be closer to set play because it's like okay, even in Smash they have like SDI to mix that up, but like it's a thing you are doing that just will simply work.
Oh, okay.
God, I shouldn't. Okay, I'm becoming the part of the problem where I'm using FGC terms in Smash and slightly changing them. I am becoming the change I do not wish to see in the world. So things that like in your hands or that you can kind of like. Oh wait, with Kumatora, I think you probably know. Do you know what box theory is? My boxes.
I think I do. Yeah, like putting people into boxes depending on the character they play.
Yeah. So if this is
go for it.
Yeah. So this helps a ton with stamina also. So if let's say you're playing John the Fox player, and you don't know anything about John, but you do know that he plays Fox and he's round one. So
okay.
You can just kind of do you can just expect the Fox stereotypes, right? You're expecting Nair Shine, you're expecting up throw, you're expecting to cheese them at ledge. Like, you have a set of expectations, you put all those expectations in a box and call it Fox. This is the Fox box. And this is the character. This is a little less changing than John. But you start your match against John, and he does run up down tilt. And it's like, run up down tilt is not in the normal Fox box. But that gets you thinking about it, because you have noticed that it's not normal now, because you have set expectations.
I like John the Fox player.
John the Fox player, definitely run up down to the 0 is a decision. That's what I'll say. If you're going to run down tilt, pick a different character. It's 0 at least. But like, it is an outlier, and it's a lot easier to notice because you have an expectation. You have an expectation of the Fox stuff. And that is not the Fox stuff. So it's easier to notice and easier to like consciously be like, oh, why did he run up down tilt? What is he trying to gain out of this? And depending on like the player, it could just be like, okay, so John the Fox player is just pressing buttons and picking Fox. And that's just, it's a pure cosmic coincidence they have picked Fox. But, you know, that's...
With all the buttons they play, they just press Fox.
they F tilt you at 0, they like forward throw at 80.
I like this round 1.
Oh, boy. But the point being, like, you don't have to worry about it that much if it's truly just kind of like pressing buttons and not really like having a lot of thought. But the scary thing is when John the Fox player, like, oh, run up down to the 50, like, oh, you know, like, oh, this has a reward to it that I hadn't considered as an option. Yeah. This isn't in the box yet. But where it can go is in the John box.
Okay.
So even if it's not a normal... Go ahead.
Stuff that you need to worry about is what would be put in the John box that you need to process.
It's in both boxes. It's just that the Fox box you can make ahead of time, and the John box you can make in between sets. Like after you play John, you can go, okay, he did a lot of run up down tilt. He used forward throw, like maybe he used down throw tech chasing instead of up throw up air on Zero Suit because she's skinny. But like as you get more and more information, you populate the John box. And this informs your decision, right? Of like, let's say you're at 60 and, you know, Fox is running at you and you might be thinking, oh, you know, or let's say maybe at 70, like Nair up smash might start killing soon, or Nair back air might be like a good edge guard soon. And then you remember, wait, the John box run up at this percent, like pattern recognition, like run up at 60 has another option to it that John seems to like using. And I'm playing John. So I'm going to prioritize the John box over the Fox box.
All right.
That being said, because the Fox box is part of this is just like, okay, you know, wave shine up smash is good. It's just like mathematically, like up throw up air is good. So
it's good.
Something with like Meta Knight, right? I was playing Dawn, a Meta Knight player last night, and I realized,
I know he is.
Heck yeah. At like 80, he killed me like 3 times in one game with up throw cape at 80. I'm like, okay, I need this. I need to remember I'm at 80. This is the Meta Knight box. Just don't land until I'm at 90. And then that let me play a better game because not only is it like, oh, I don't have to worry about this kill option at this specific percent. It becomes, oh, the Dawn box means if he's going for throw at 80, he's not doing the anti-aerial stuff. Like, he's dash dancing horizontally. That lets me, you know, that gives me the opportunity to, you know, push him to corner, to try to, like, use Nair because Mewtwo is crazy. Like, it doesn't have to be character specific either, but, like, if you think someone is trying to dash dance grab you, well, then you have the different options of, like, overshoot, undershoot, stay in the air. Then before you even get character specifics, you have these base options. So to kind of get back to John over here. Like, let's say, okay, you know, you play round 1, you win 2-1, you get good information on John. Next week you play round 2. John's a little different this week. This is actually really funny. John has a slightly different shade of green. And you go, oh, okay, that is a slightly different shade of green. The trick is...
It's still a John thing.
It's still a John thing, and the only way that you know it's a slightly different shade is because it's next to the John box.
All right.
So what you do then is you just...
So he'll like pivot up tilt sometimes, you know.
Oh, damn. Okay. Yeah, John really put in work. Yeah, so now the John box includes something new. You just add on to the box. And this isn't perfect. Like, this doesn't win you the game automatically, of course, because, like, even 4 options is hard to keep track of. Like, 4 meaningfully different options is difficult to keep track of in Smash, let alone, like, the character stuff of, like, okay, John likes up throw up air at this %, but he will also sometimes do this and da-da-da-da.
All right.
But it helps you kind of, like, expend less energy because if you don't have this John box, right? So if you only have the Fox box of, like, Fox is a character, we'll do A, B, and C. Then once they do something that's not A, B, or C, you have to expend energy figuring out, okay, wait, they did this. Are they more likely to do this? Are they more likely to do that? And then when they do options like X, it's like, oh, wait, okay, they did this. Are they more likely to do this? Why do they do this? But now that first option might not still be there. Like, you might not have that in your head since you didn't associate it with anything. Mm-hmm. But what the player box does is it gives you a place to store that information of like run up down tilt, right? I literally remember run up down tilt because, like, oh, haha, silly John, run up down tilt at 0.
Silly John.
We're like, oh, John. And then, as the weeks go on, and this is if you play the same people a lot necessarily, but maybe they stop doing run up down tilt. I was like, oh, John isn't doing run up down tilt anymore. Now John is doing, let me give it a different shade of blue just to make this even sillier. John is doing like a spaced down tilt at kill %. John is, even though it's the same move and it's kind of the same, they're using it a little differently. And eventually this box will just be filled with a rainbow of multicolored options that are all a little different, but all kind of the same person.
Okay. But
the trick is good players or players that have been playing for a while are already like this. You just don't have that information yet. So if you can...
And also that information, I guess it's like easier to access because like streams and stuff, and like these people you'll usually play them more often than your John in round 1.
Right. You have more footage. So that's why, like in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, that game was really wacky. Some top players were on the record saying they were more afraid of their pools matches because they don't know who they are. And it's so easy to get messed up in that game versus like, okay, I know this player's top 3 in the world, but I can make a plan. I have the Justin Wong box. And even if the Justin Wong box has 30 different options that all lead to death, I can at least like try to fight it. Versus, right, so let's say this is this is an eraser. Quick answer. Tell me how I play Marvel 3, right? You can't. You've never seen me play Marvel 3.
I've never seen you play Marvel 3.
So these are all of this is a question mark. And Marvel 3 is an extreme example, but when you're starting out playing someone you haven't played before, or especially someone you haven't heard before, like you haven't, like if you play Malachi, you at least know that like, okay, I die when I get hit. He's very good at the game. Like you can start somewhere. But if you were to play,
I can think of a lot of stuff that are just like Malachi's. Like I think he's like one of the better people at like edge hogging with the up B like I've ever seen, because he like knows all the timings on every move, and he's really good at adjusting that so that you get a hit and die, yes, on stage, but like also off stage with just privilege of the character.
Yeah,
he's really good at exploiting that.
But that's why, for example, let me ask you a question. Have you ever heard of my boy Brad?
Glenntxo?
No, his tag is my boy Brad.
I don't know your boy Brad.
Yeah, he's a Houston dude. You don't he plays Link, and you don't know what he does. Is my point. So yes. This is a big question mark. Once you get to like the mid-level, the combination of like, oh, this player is solid, but I also have no clue what they're going to do becomes very scary. Mm-hmm. So like, same thing with like, oh, SSK is this, I think he's a phenomenal Kirby player, but you don't know what he does. Like, and also
Nor do I know what good Kirby's do.
exactly. The Kirby box is empty too. So if both of these boxes are empty, you got to get some information. You got to figure something out. You gotta just like sit there, like run away and just see how they chase you and do what you can.
That's what I would do. Just like let them throw out a move. It can hit me. It doesn't matter. I
just want to know what move it is. But so all this to say that basically, like, making these boxes, like, it does take effort, and it does take effort to recall these things and to like get the answers and solutions to these things and like figure out what you want to do about it. But like, it's better than never having the box at all. When it's like, okay, I'm sitting down to play Devin, the SSK, the Kirby player. Mm-hmm. I don't have retention of what he likes to do or what Kirby likes to do, etc. Oops. No, I'm not buying a whiteboard. I have Notepad. I have Word. Yeah, so that's a way to conserve stamina. On like the interaction side. Mm-hmm. On your side, the stuff that's in your hands, air quotes, that's your autopilot stuff that you don't have to think a ton about. Like, oh, if you land down smash at 180, you just F smash. Like, you don't think about it. You don't go for the back air that's slightly trickier. You just kill them. Let me actually...
I only do that on ledge because forward smash doesn't hit. I'm not very creative.
There we go. So efficiency and resources. I'm going to just kind of wrap this up real quick on how to... So we're nearing the end, but we've talked about like how to get these extra resources in the sense of like, oh, I'm less nervous, which means I have more conscious abilities. I have more conscious ability to control my character, to get out of my own head. Mm-hmm. I have more stamina. So that means I have more energy to try some wacky stuff, right? Or we'll say, do it in this direction. So if you have more stamina, that means you have more chances, basically.
All right.
So chances for being creative. You're like mentally more fresh and aware, and it makes you faster. Like, rather, being low on stamina makes you slower, but like, it makes your gameplay a little. It gives you the opportunity to play faster, to play in more creative ways, and to like you literally think slower when you're tired, let alone move slower.
I also feel that when you're more nervous, you tend to play faster. You just want to get it over with. That's sometimes happens with me.
Yeah, that is also a very good point. Let me do.
Like when you camp with confidence.
Nobody camps quickly.
No.
Nobody's like, oh no, what do I do? And they just camp quickly. That doesn't. No, I mean you run away maybe, but like you don't camp quickly. That's not a thing.
Like how much like mental stack does it need to like run up in there?
Yeah.
No, when you camp, you need to like measure like space. Like you need to like space well. You need to like pick your spots. Like what's the word I'm looking for? Risk reward.
Right. Does John like to shield here? Should I do drill instead? Does John like to, dash dance into the corner and grab me with Marth? Should I overshoot? You can think more about it versus nerves. It's like, go to default option. So this is backwards. Let me just back this out. More intense all around. And autopilot is a phenomenal tool, but it is a tool. So if you default to using the same tool over and over again, it's too much of a good thing. Mm-hmm. And different players, sometimes you'll have to autopilot more or less, regardless of skill. Like, there are players that I've played in Houston that, like, regardless of, like, how well they placed, I could not autopilot at all against them.
I get that. I happens.
And there are players that are kind of the other way, where even though they're very, very good, maybe it's because they autopilot a little more than they should, I don't know. But like I can autopilot a little more than normal and conserve some stamina, and that gives me an edge.
Okay.
So as you have these resources available to you more, faster on or control of speed is a better way to put it. As you have these resources available to you, you can use them to, the biggest thing is creativity, I think. Because autopilot is something you can do even when you're tired. That's kind of the point of the tool. It doesn't take the energy.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
But, trying to figure out like, oh, hey, I need to get this 0 to death. What's some wacky stuff I can cheese them with? Like cheese is stamina.
Yeah.
It also is autopilot. So like a lot of characters, I'll just jump off in there and then like free ball it from there because it's good.
Cheese does involve creativity, and creativity does take a spoon, right?
Yeah. And to kind of extend the spoon analogy just a little bit more, there are some things that don't consume spoons but just need them. So like maybe back throw Nair like doesn't need any spoons or doesn't consume any spoons. Maybe something with Mewtwo. So just like some easy just run off stage, Nair, something good will happen.
Mm-hmm.
But stuff like trying to like read a jump doesn't consume a spoon, but it needs one. Because that takes a little more energy, even if it doesn't like use that energy up necessarily.
All right.
Also, feel free to this is not necessarily the correct way of thinking about energy expenditure. I think there's enough objectivity in this to be worth talking about as spoons. But if you think of it a different way, that works for you. Perfect. That works for you. It's not like frame data where it's no, this costs 2 spoons. Mewtwo down smash costs 1.8 spoons and does 3 spoon damage. No, it's
that's a lot of spoon damage.
That's a lot of spoon damage. The numbers on that move are spoon plus. They need to nerf the spoons on Mewtwo down smash. God.
I love this analogy.
It's such a cursed analogy. But basically, if you think of it a different way and that works for you, sure, I'm a moron. This, I am not correct in the way that I can't tell you how best you handle nerves and stamina. I can just give you tools and give you experiences and tools and information and anecdotes and I think the biggest thing is tools, and then you can run with the ball, as it were. The same way that I can't play for you, I can give you VOD review. I can give you, strategies. I can give you exercises to improve your execution. I can give you execution that you hadn't considered before. I can be maybe the creativity in between matches. But I can't press the buttons. This is the same thing. I can't. Okay, this analogy is definitely. I was going to say I can't press your stamina buttons, but I can't. I can't play the game for you. I can't figure out your mental for you. I can just be here with you to figure it out. So if you come up with something that doesn't make a lick of sense to me, if I have no idea what you're talking about, but it works for you, I'm going to shut my mouth because you're doing good.
I'm trying to look for those answers. That's why I'm asking a lot of people if they can find solutions.
Heck yeah. But
because I'm trying to solve I have other problems in gameplay. It's not I'm not the best player alive, and God forbid. But I feel like I can't move as a player if I don't figure this out. If I can't organize my stamina throughout tournaments, if I can't for the life of me just play a normal set and not be afraid of the consequence.
Yeah. The something that actually might help with that outside of events is asking your community, hey, would someone be down to help run bracket? Just, you don't have to run all of it, but just that way I don't have to think about, oh wait, is the bracket gonna get help? Should I wait a minute for my sets? No, I have someone else that can help. Or hey, would y'all mind reporting your own sets on this laptop if you have a laptop instead of, for instance?
That's a good idea.
Let me just kind of write some of this stuff down, and then I can send you this Google Doc if you'd like.
I would love it.
Perfect. Reconsider stakes. So like, yeah, that zoom out I was talking about is like, okay, I'm getting four stocked in I'm getting wobbled in my favorite game. Please help. Like, but it's like it's one game. Like, you know, like my friends aren't going to be like, oh, you got wobbled? Okay, goodbye. It's not going to be like, oh, you got wobbled? Yeah, it's going to be like a funny, like, yeah, I'm going to make a shit post out of you getting bodied by a 15-year-old at a major. Okay, that's fine. It is, there's also, like, that one especially, if you can find that sweet spot where, like, this is, like, if you're getting bodied so hard it becomes funny, that's exactly where you want to be. At least for me personally. Like, that's fun at that point. Like, if somebody footstools you, like, 3 times in a row, it's like, okay, this has gone past, like, oh, air quotes, embarrassing. Now it's just funny. So, like, if you consider the stakes or, like, the long-term impact, like, oh, no, I got bodied by LZ. That was 6 years ago. Or, like, let's say, oh, I went to Game 5 against Fearless instead of 3-0ing him like massive air quotes on this. Like, I air quotes should because I am, again, massive air quotes, the better player. I think better player is such a stupid phrase. But it's like, what do I think that's going to be on my progress report when I get home from the tournament? Like, no. I got to play more Smash. That's a good thing.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Alternatively, you can zoom in. Ask what you have to do to win in game, like in situation X. Or in situation. So, like, if you're getting 4-stocked by LZ on Battlefield, sometimes what you do is what you ask yourself is, okay, I've learned I'm banning Battlefield. Like, in this set, it might not matter, but like, part of this can also be.
I mean, aren't you Mewtwo though?
Mewtwo doesn't like Battlefield that much. We have the silly scary thing, but it's a free ban because y'all are scared of it.
I'm scared.
We can't threaten while we do that. It's just spooky.
It's really spooky.
But yeah, if you like, one way to kind of zoom in is like, what do I do next? In the sense of like, oh, how do I get this reverse 4-stock? Or like, okay, what information do I want to get that will be valuable for the next game? Like, even if it doesn't win me this game, let's say there's a 1% chance of me getting this reverse 4-stock. If I can get information, if I can make John, if I can get some new information out of the John box, if I can learn something about Kirby, right? If I can learn something about this player I haven't heard of, that's a win.
Yeah.
That's a way to get out of the like, oh, I've lost this game 1 or whatever mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll also toss on the timeline, or I'll do visualization. So like I was mentioning earlier, like something that helps me is like, oh, literally visualizing a timeline of like, oh, I don't know when this match ends. I know I'm getting bodied in the beginning, but it's the beginning for a reason. So, you know, whether you want to think of it like a wheel, like a clock or something, or just a straight line, like a timeline, literally whatever works for you, but just try to literally just throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. And like, oh, hey, the timeline specifically didn't help me that much, but the idea that time is passing and that is in the past did. Let me try something else now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I never really thought about like the timeline thing. Just like this happens in the specific place, and like this is happening now, but I could twist it. Okay.
Yeah, like one trick is to twist. I have to. Okay, we're gonna have to end up in it. We're gonna have to end pretty soon here. I do have a thing.
Okay.
But it's basically just twist. Like, oh, if like you can't lie. Really, you can't really lie to yourself and say, "Oh, I'm not getting 4-stocked." If you're getting 4-stocked, right? But you can say, "Oh, I'm getting 4-stocked right now." You can add on that little asterisk. Let me actually say like little asterisks. So little. I'm getting 4-stocked right now. Right? So that like. You can kind of like trick your headspace into being like, trick your mentality into being like, oh, good things can happen.
Okay.
Because there's definitely been games where like I start out really strong, and it's about to be a 4-stock, and then they get me down to 2, and then like 20 minutes later, they're like, "Yeah, you 4-stocked me game 1." It's like, no, I didn't. No, I maybe it was a 2-stock and you still lost game 1 or whatever, but like no, it felt like a 4-stock because it started off that way, and then you were still in that, you still were stuck there through games 2, 3, and 4 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then for stamina, oh no, my brain is tiny. What was I saying before asterisks? Oh no. Oh yeah, TO responsibilities. Like I've been talking with someone else who is the primary TO for their events, and it's a lot. Like it's too much for them to like play comfortably without getting a lot of negative emotions, and they just like I say, it's easy to kind of like forget you can do this sometimes, but like you just ask for help. You're like, calling matches, reporting matches. Maybe
I started making things a little bit easier because I'm primarily in charge. I'm like I TO with another guy. Like it's 2 of us.
Right.
And I'm mainly focused on like seeding and like also like calling matches, but mainly seeding and getting all the money at the beginning, like for like the prize pool and for the venue and stuff.
Yeah.
So I've like with people DQing, I've just like came like to the realization that I'm just gonna do the seeding 3 minutes before the tournament because like it's just not viable. I get like stressed like the minute like the night before. It's like, oh, this guy's not coming. They haven't confirmed yet. I need to DM them, and I'm like, no, dude, I'm doing it 3 minutes before because I still want the tournament to run well, but
you can't run yourself into the ground like that. Like that's not fair to you.
Yeah, I guess.
And on the flip side, though, like again, I don't know your local scene, so I don't know if you have a person who would be down for this. But like maybe there's someone who would be down to like put forth that effort in the seeding because that's the only effort they're putting forth into TOing. They're not doing all of this. They're just doing this. So they might be cool with like, oh, hey, usually, seeds 4 and 5 or seeds 1 and 4 play, which means it can get static if we have the same people. Let me mix up seeds 4 through 6 a little bit, just for the sake of mixing it up and making their experience better. That's something that you can't really do if you're seeding 3 minutes before, and rightfully so, but like, because you need to take care of your own energy as well. So, like, delegating, that's the term.
Yeah.
Delegating. And just finding... It might feel like you're trying to cut corners or, like, push your responsibilities on someone else. That is very much not the case. You're just literally asking for help because doing all of this is becoming a strain. It's exhausting. And you want to be able to play your best and to play well and be happy with your play.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I guess that's like what I'm looking for. It's just like being comfortable with like this is like how I'm playing. How can I like beat players that are better than me at my best?
Yep.
Or at my A game, not my S game. Or I hate tier lists.
How do you bring that floor up, right? How do you make your worst quality of play in tournament like better?
Mm-hmm.
And I think you hit it on the head. It is a lot of like cleaning up how you respond to nerves because nerves are gonna happen. Like nerves are because of stakes. Stakes are gonna happen. You're gonna invest money, time, travel, and some ego just naturally like into your play, especially if money, time, and travel. If you're helping run the event, right? Like that's even more effort that you have invested into this. So there are stakes. And to a certain extent, most people, I've heard very few people say that they simply don't get as nervous as they used to, like at all. And I'm not trying to discredit them, but the vast majority of people I've talked to, myself included, still get nervous, but it just becomes, we get better, we handle it better and it becomes less novel. So,
all right.
Like the first time let's say the first time Mewtwo King made top 8 of the major, or got to grand finals of the major, that fact was more nervous than the 8th time because he's been here before.
Yep.
So I think that's about everything. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about real quick before we call it?
I wanted to just like briefly how to get better at recognizing patterns in a best of 3. Like, I think like the philosophies on best of 3 and best of 5 are very different, or not very different, but like they're not the same.
All right. So box theory still helps because you immediately have an expectation, and it's either proven correct or wrong, which gets your brain paying attention. Brains don't like being wrong because when our brains are wrong, they think that something is going to hurt us. Because our brains are stupid creatures that don't know we live in a society. And being wrong about a read in the video game is fine. But luckily, that means that, if you have your Fox options, you have your Josh options, another thing that this does is you have a base set of like, okay, I can loosely expect something from one of these boxes. So, excuse me, when you do something that's all the way over here in left field, it sticks out like a sore thumb, right? It's not even close to one of these boxes. Or it's close to the box, but you can tell it's close on purpose to try to trick you. That can help you notice these things, and then that can help when you notice them more clearly. That helps you get more energy. You can more clearly be like, oh, is John a tricky person? Is John doing this wacky option on purpose, or was it like feasibly just a tech skill error that worked out? Or is this a Fox option that is like uncommon, but like, sometimes, and it helps you kind of stay grounded. For best of 3, you have less time for this naturally, but the flip side means that you also can do this yourself. They have less time if you toss out 1 or 2 of these wackier options. Specifically for the issue of how would you phrase it?
I don't know what you're gonna say, so I don't know.
That's fair. How would you phrase what I'm thinking right now? For the issue of how to do this more quickly, I think that having loose expectations. Loose is important. You don't want to expect John to only do 8 things.
Yes.
Recognizing that they have patterns that they enjoy, because again, human flesh brains enjoy patterns. Patterns are comfort. Comfort is good. It thinks we live in a dinosaur land where bad things will hurt us. So patterns good, patterns safe. Yay patterns. Go patterns.
PM is very primitive.
Primitive melee. Love that for them. So being able to recognize this stuff quickly, once you're aware of putting people in boxes and like options, the stuff that sticks out will stick out a little more clearly and a little more quickly. So if you're, for example, sometimes it doesn't help if you don't know the counterplay. Again, using that LZ, getting bodied by LZ at low tier city, like I didn't know the good DI or SDI to get out of the 9s. So even though I know the 9 is coming, it's still more just like the fear response just triggers earlier, which is still good because that's still pattern recognition.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives me more opportunity to realize like, oh, wait, the last time Fox down tilted me at 70, I got hurt. So the next time it happened, you go, oh, John did run up down tilt when I was at 70. And then the next time, you get a little more information. Oh, John did, dash dance into run up down tilt when I was at 70. You get more of the pattern the more you see it. So for example, like if you've ever seen like a TAS tech showcase of like smash movement, it's super impressive and you don't know what they're going to do. The second time you watch it, you'll remember like, oh yeah, there was this cool teleport thing they did on Battlefield, and then they wave dash left. The third time, you remember, oh yeah, they did this. They did a short hop auto cancel nair, and then they did the teleport stuff, and then they wave dash left, and you just get more and more context. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, it's kind of like layering on the initial idea.
Yeah. The trick is that when you put people in boxes like this, and I want to stress, like you are putting their actions in boxes, and you are very loosely doing that. Like putting people in boxes is a thing that a lot of people will do unintentionally, and I'm not here for it.
All
but
right.
unironically, put people in boxes respectfully, then, not derogatory, but respectfully,
I know. I do.
then it becomes easier to notice. Like again, step one, step two, step three, and then you are able to realize like, oh wait, they do this stuff before run up down tilt. They also do this stuff before run up shine maybe or run up grab, and the pattern then becomes simpler. Of instead of this, oh we have four patterns, a different run up option. It becomes, this thing into run up option, and you can compartmentalize it. You can fit it in the box
Yes.
because by the time they run up option, you're not reacting to the run up option. You're reacting to the thing they do before the run, in the beginning of the run.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of overloading the box with run up shine, run up grab, run up nair, run up drill, run up down tilt, run up dash attack, 6, 7 different options that all have the same thing in common, just literally like you can think of it like run up stuff.
Mm.
And then it fits right in there. Because if you're trying to beat this, it doesn't matter what stuff is. It only matters that it's a run up. And now
You can counterplay it with a lot of different things. Like it doesn't matter what the run up is. You can wave dash back.
Right.
Or
you
hit them
can
before you.
You can be out of the way of most stuff with the same option.
Mm.
You can put a hitbox in front of yourself, and that'll beat most stuff.
Yeah, I heard. You know who Lord Knight is?
Oh yeah, okay.
He was like talking about that on a stream a couple days ago. That's like the fallacy of play expression. That like a lot of people want to do like a lot of different things, but it's really all the same. Like the causality and the like what you want to do and what it ends up being more or less the same. So like any run up can kind of like there's like different variations, but like more or less it can be beaten by just hitting them before you do, or if they're gonna jump, you can just like stomp them or something like that.
Exactly. So I'm going to say overshoot. I'm overshooting in neutral in the sense of like, oh, they're going past me with an aerial. So like a shuffle further than where I am. Like these are all different options, and these all can be beat by different things, but these all can also be condensed into, let's say, like, I'll say stop sign actions. So like stop sign would be stuff like soul 5k. It's like, hey, you can't be here. A lot of 6Ps in neutral are just like, hey, stop that, right? That'll be run up options. That'll be certain kind of pokes. That'll be jumps. So if they're cycling between options that all lose to the same thing, you don't have to give a hoot. Like you can just kind of like play into the thing that is consistently good numbers against these options, and you don't have to go through the energy of, hey, what exactly are they doing? It's like, well, they're doing something that I can just press Soul 5K on and it's fine, so I don't care what they're doing. I'm going to press 5K. Or like
anything that ends up beating all that subsets of what that you're doing like the run up thing. Like the subset of the run up thing is beating by a specific stop sign. It doesn't matter what the stop sign, like what's part of the subset. It can be beaten by Soul 5K.
Right. Doesn't matter if they get to run up shine, run up grab, run up nair. If they stop at run up and you hit them, it doesn't matter. It's still a run up. So being able to kind of like zoom out and see these like broader trends of like, oh, okay, and to steal traditional fighting games, it's not a perfect analogy, but like, right, you have that. It's not a perfect triangle either, even in traditional fighters. Advance. A lot of games have a basic triangle. Where I'm going to lean on Strive a little bit. Let's say you think, let's say you're playing the Nagoriyuki mirror matchup, right? Far slash is a good poke. 2S is a good poke. That will beat.
2S is a definitely a fantastic poke.
That will beat, especially in like traditional fighters where you can buffer that into like options. That will beat advancing. That will beat, Nagoriyuki not running per se, but like, advancing forward with a jump or with a Fukio. Advancing with a Fukio will beat somebody, or at least put a lot of pressure on somebody who is that is just defending and doing nothing. Defending a poke means that you can act first, and then that you can put Nagoriyuki's kind of a bad example because he can't run in a traditional sense. He can't like dash block. But like normally you are at frame advantage and you can color the next interaction however you want it. For example, if you're trying to advance and you can jump over more pokes because you have more time. If you're trying to defend, you can move forward and then defend. If you're trying to poke, you can poke first, etc.
All right.
So this kind of, there's obviously a ton of different stuff. Like poke 5S is different than poke 2S. Poke 6P is different than poke, 5K or 5H or 2H. But the core subset of I'm going to press a button does have answers that are not 100% universal, but are like you can group answers. The core subset of I'm going to run up and do stuff has answers. The core subset of I'm going to sit here and react to what you're doing has answers. And this is not Strive specific. Like, if we're going to, let's say, to try to butcher this into PM terminology at least, let's say if you're trying to poke, you're just doing like Marth Fairs in place, or like, you're just hanging out. You're trying to advance, you're doing Fox Shuffle Nair. Defending is maybe wave dash back or dash dancing backwards, like, Sheik trying to get that grab to throw off stage. Sheik trying to get that grab might not always beat Marth in place, but that's because there's a lot more variability, but it's that same kind of thing. If Sheik trying to get that grab might lose to like slow advancement, which is then, this is why this doesn't really work the further you get into it, because slow advancement, this stops being like comprehensible. Or rather, you had asterisk onto advancement beating defense in this matchup.
Yeah.
And then, you're defending against Marth Fair. Well, you're kind of backing up and he's not doing anything. So this is, you defend in some ways. If you defend against some pokes in some ways, then you don't really win. Maybe like, this poke doesn't cover, you're trying to down tilt and shuffle Nair. Well, it doesn't always beat advancing then. Like it becomes really nuanced, but the core of it is there still.
Yep.
So instead of, let me back up a little bit. So the way we use that is for our boxes. Let me do it on white. That way it's easier to see. We have our boxes. Let's say blue is advancing, yellow is defending, and then black is poking. Well, if you know that half of the options are advancing, like context aside, doesn't matter who this is, doesn't matter what character it is. If half the options are advancing and you just want to like do something safe and like see what they do, just do something that beats advancement. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then this gets colored too by recent interactions. If you poke them out of their advancement like 4 times in a row, they're probably not going to advance. So these are temporarily going to be off the table, depending on if you think that's what the person would do. Of course, you're adding more context to this at this point. But like now that you have poked them, like convinced them to stop, they're probably going to start stopping and do other things, which means now you can do the stuff that is targeted towards this, even if there are not many options. Okay, does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, it definitely makes sense.
Okay, I think that's probably. I can feel myself. I can feel myself start rambling again. I think that's a good place to call it.
Yeah, this is a great session.
I'm glad.
I will rewatch this.
Let me go ahead and make sure it's 2 pages. Perfect. I can get you the link to this in just a minute. And I'm going to go ahead and call the stream. This will be up on my YouTube channel, linked below my Twitch. And
subscribe.
It's just these VODs, but I do have a lot of these up. Like, Glenn, you had mentioned, you actually wanted to talk about this stuff because you saw a session where I was talking with Kumatora about similar things.
Yeah.
And similarly, if you're on the YouTube, I have my Twitch link. I stream these. I try to remember to put it up on Twitter, but I frequently forget, so that's my bad. And then I have my links everywhere, of course. Thanks for hanging out, and I will catch you all later.